People who grew up in third world countries, what was the biggest shock for you when moving into a developed country? Toilets. Flushing toilets that you could repeatedly flush too. The quality of the public infrastructure. And how respectful city planning is with pedestrians. Sydney is full of beautiful little gifts in the shape of shortcuts, stairs, parks, pathways, everywhere. It truly is a joy to just walk through the city. Also, dogs are more polite than people where I come from. Just how much of my mind was previously occupied by machinations of keeping my family alive, like always subconsciously running through the drill of what to do in the event of an armed hijacking or house break-in, and being super vigilant around people and in various places, no matter the time of day. I felt like at least 10% of my mental capacity has been freed up for other more productive thoughts like appreciating beauty and freedom, planning a prosperous future and trusting that the sense of security my family and I feel isn't just a ruse. Toilet paper. Toilet paper everywhere. You don't have to bring your own to a public restroom because there's one in every stall here in America, and it's free. Restaurant service and food abundance. You asked for a medium well steak but was slightly overcooked? You send it back to the kitchen and you get a new one cooked for you. And the server even apologizes for it. Black people, white people, Asian people, people with natural red hair. In my 15 years living in a small town in Central America, I saw maybe 2 black people, a handful of white people, the one Chinese restaurant owner, and 0 red heads. Now I get to see all kinds of people from all over the world, with different experiences and backgrounds. It's kinda neat. My wife's first time in the US, she burst out laughing at how 4-way stop worked, and just couldn't believe people actually followed the rules. I visited my cousins in the US once. I was surprised that your houses don't have walls around them. There were only those fences at the side and back that pretty much anyone can jump over. Where I live, the only houses who don't have walls surrounding them are those in compounds or subdivisions that have roaming security guards. Paid security guards, not volunteers like the neighborhood watch kind of thing. My roommate's coworker is from Guatemala. He says one of the best things about the US is that when you call for an ambulance, one actually shows up even if you aren't rich or important. The one thing which baffled me is how there is an absence of petty crimes and how the shops in the city center were not worried about displaying their wares outside their shops. There was no risk of someone stealing those tiny stuffs. Also at night, the shops were just closed with their glass doors. No extra iron shutters with multiple locks and stuffs. I grew up in South Africa and have been living in England for 20 years. 1. Cars stop when you walk up to a pedestrian crossing. Double glazed windows are really good at keeping the warm in and the noise out. I can walk around at night without thinking I'm going to get shot or robbed. There are only a few people on building sites and the buildings get built in a quick and organized manner. When things break, someone will come and fix it. In my first year of university, I had a Nigerian fellow living with me in halls who was an absolute riot. First day here, apparently he was struck dumb by the appearance of a woman driving a rubbish truck down the street. Just could not believe what his eyes were seeing. And despite living in the UK for over 6 months at some point, could not get over the fact that many houses were built directly onto the pavement and that you could even look directly inside people's windows and observe them if you really wanted to. Supposedly back home he lived in a compound surrounded by barbed wire and angry dogs. I remember sitting in the kitchen one day and he came in grinning from ear to ear. He was genuinely delighted by the fact that he had left some food exposed on his desk, and returned later to find it intact and not devoured by insects. Then there was one incident where he came into the flat looking quite flustered and annoyed. I asked him what was wrong and he explained to me that he'd been unable to get into his classes because there was a cat sitting on the steps up to the door. Confused, I asked how a cat was stopping him from going into his class, and he explained to me, quite seriously, that the cat was a witch, and would turn into a snake and eat him. At first I thought he was taking the piss, so I started laughing. But no, he was genuine in his belief that the cat was, in fact, a witch. Apparently some parts of Nigeria are still quite superstitious, and cats are especially despised. Being able to walk around the city while using my phone. If I use it where I live, I get murdered, or kidnapped over a phone. Honduran. You've got so much fresh water. You shit in it. When I was in the Marines, I had a friend that was from extreme rural Africa, so we took him to 3D shows and such. He had been in the US for around 6 months, but even things like TV was an amazing luxury to him. Someone in the group picked up one at a pawn shop off post and gave it to him, and he was just amazed that someone would just give him a TV. Something nifty. He had it set up so direct deposits would go to an account his village had access to. His salary as an E2 in the Navy made his family semi-royalty in the village. How expensive many things are, while certain things are very cheap, but there's always enough. I grew up in Costa Rica. When I moved to the US, everything was way cheaper. Then I realized how expensive everything in my country is. I mean, $13 for a small pizza is not okay. How little theft there is. I was always told to always mind my bag and make it clear I'm holding it tight. Now I can freely leave it beside me. Sometimes not even look. I've had friends leave a purse on a table in a restaurant and I made jokes about how easy it would be to steal it. Just a lot more relaxing in public due to less theft. Another one is how less physical fighting in schools there is. From a young age I was always told if someone hits you, hit them back harder, but when we moved to UK my dad told me before my first day of school, if someone hits you, tell the teacher. Grocery stores like Walmart, Publix, and Kroger, huge and vast, have air conditioning, massive variety and tons of stuff I have never heard of. Huge culture shock to me and my father in 2001 since we had no major grocery stores in Bosnia at the time. The postal system. The logistics of delivering millions of letters to millions of homes on a daily basis is astonishing, especially at that price. The idea that I can send a letter across the country and have it reliably delivered the next or possibly even same day is truly impressive. How old the houses are. I was expecting modern construction like in my country. I instead saw old buildings which, ironically, valued more than even the more modern ones. Old buildings are often closer to the city center, so it's also location, plus they may have historical value. The discipline in driving. In my country, even when the signal light is color red, they just brush it off and continue accelerating. Morons. Giant grocery stores are full of food and always fully stocked. Coming from Ukraine to USA in the 90s, my entire family's jaws dropped for hours. My dad's from Munich and my mom's from Krakow, and the stories about their childhoods are sometimes so different because of that. Like my mom will tell you how oranges were a delicacy that you only had for special occasions, while my dad will be like, oh, when we were bored we used to throw them at each other for fun. Coming from the worst country to a better one, it surprises me how easy it is to do a transaction online. Apply Visa? Do it online. They will notify you once they need documents, once you are ready, etc. Every step of the process. Pay bills? Fine. Do online banking. Order food. Groceries? Do it online. Call for delivery. Schedule for appointment? Call. Do it online. Meanwhile in my country, you need to do all this physically. Fall in line for hours. Registration done? On to the next step, payment. You need to go to the bank. Collect the receipt and come back here. You want to do it online? Good luck with the shitty websites and slow internet. I could go on and on. It's day and night comparison. Not getting suspicious when a stranger talks to you on the street. I can't get over it. I get anxious every time. But people in Canada don't seem to mind at all. Where I come from, when a stranger approaches you, you nope the f*** out. That things would get fixed. I had a vending machine in my dorm building. It broke down and said, well shit, guess no more vending machine. Absolutely flabbergasted when I saw the machine repaired and working. People's personal space is surprisingly vast. Safety when walking on the streets during night. When in Brazil, I used to wait for my wife on the bus stop from college, as she usually left college around 2200. It was dangerous. We used to live on a central zone, and her college was also central. In Ireland, if she leaves a party at 3 o'clock, I don't get concerned at all. So great to live without being afraid. It took us about 1 year to relax. The lights. So many lights, from street lamps, traffic lights, huge buildings lit up all night. Oh, and the highways blew my mind. They were so wide and full of so many cars. I was 6 and I'll never forget that first drive from the airport to my new home in December. It was also my first time seeing snow.